There is a kind of loneliness that has no name, not the loneliness of being alone in a room, or even of being misunderstood by someone you love. This is something quieter, something that sits in the spaces between words, the loneliness of living in a world that was never built for the way your mind works. We live in a civilization that worships a very specific kind of thinking. We celebrate speed. We reward abstraction. We hand trophies to the people who can solve equations faster, argue more cleverly, climb academic ladders with the most grace. And in doing so, we've built an invisible hierarchy, one that most people never question, because most people have never had to. But what happens to the ones who fall outside that hierarchy entirely? What happens to the person whose mind moves differently, not broken, not empty, not less human, just differently? Because here's what psychology is slowly, painfully, honestly beginning to admit. We have spent decades measuring intelligence as if it were a single river, when in reality, it is an entire ocean. With currents, we are only beginning to understand. The clinical definition is clean and cold. An IQ below 70 is classified as an intellectual disability. Below 40 or 50, severe or profound cognitive impairment. Those are the numbers, and numbers are comfortable, aren't they? They give us the illusion of understanding something we've actually only labeled, but labels are not lived experience. Imagine waking up every single day in a world where the rules are invisible to you. Not because you aren't paying attention, but because the part of the brain that reads invisible rules, the prefrontal cortex, the seat of abstract reasoning, future planning, and social inference, simply doesn't process them the way others do. Research consistently shows reduced neural connectivity in this region among individuals with very low IQ, along with slower processing speeds across multiple cognitive domains. What does that actually feel like? Think about the last time you were in a foreign country where you didn't speak the language. Every sign was unreadable. Every social cue required double the effort to decode. Every simple transaction, buying bread, asking for directions, felt exhausting in a way that had nothing to do with your intelligence and everything to do with mismatch. That low, grinding exhaustion of a mind, working twice as hard, just to keep up with a world moving at a speed it wasn't designed for. Now, imagine that wasn't a vacation. Imagine that was every morning for your entire life. This is where modern psychology asks us to pause and sit with something uncomfortable. How much of what we call low intelligence is actually just a profound mismatch between a cognitive architecture and the environment we've decided is the only valid one? Howard Gardner spent years arguing that the very concept of a single, unified intelligence is a fiction, a convenient story we tell to sort people into rows. Linguistic intelligence, spatial reasoning, emotional attunement, bodily memory, these are not lesser forms of intelligence. They are different languages the brain speaks, and are standard IQ tests. They measure fluency in only one of those languages, and then they have the audacity to grade everyone else as deficient. But here is where it gets deeply, almost achingly fascinating. Because when researchers began studying emotional responsiveness in individuals with profoundly low IQ, they found something that quietly dismantled a century of assumptions. These individuals, the ones our tests had written off, the ones our systems had placed at the very bottom of the cognitive hierarchy, they were feeling the world with an intensity and an accuracy that most of us, with all our abstract reasoning, never achieve. Studies on social attachment in this population reveal something that the numbers alone will never show you. Strong bonds, deep loyalty, a sensitivity to tone of voice so precise that they could detect emotional dishonesty in others long before the words gave it away. And that raises a question that I don't think we're fully ready to answer yet. If the deepest parts of human connection don't live in the prefrontal cortex, if love and loyalty and the ability to truly feel another person exist in older, deeper regions of the brain that no IQ test was ever designed to reach, then what exactly have we been measuring all along? That question doesn't disappear when you look away from it. It lingers, it follows you. Because the honest answer forces us to confront something deeply uncomfortable about the world we've built, that we designed our systems of worth around a very narrow definition of what a mind is supposed to do, and then we call that definition objective. The consequences of that decision are not abstract. They live in real people. In the child who sat in the back of every classroom, watching other hands shoot up while his stayed in his lap, not because he had nothing to feel, but because the question being asked lived in a language his mind didn't speak. In the adult who has learned, slowly and painfully, that the world finds her slowness inconvenient, who has internalized that inconvenience as shame. Shame is perhaps the heaviest thing a human being can carry, and it is almost always borrowed, handed to us by systems and people who needed someone to carry it for them. But here is the shift. Here is where psychology asks us to look again, slower this time. The brain is not a hierarchy. It is an ecosystem, and every ecosystem has forms of intelligence that the untrained eye mistakes for absence. The forest floor looks empty until you learn to see it. Then you realize everything is growing, quietly, persistently in the dark. People with extremely low IQ are not living diminished lives dressed up as human experience. Many of them are living with a presence, a groundedness, an emotional honesty that the rest of us spend years in therapy trying to recover. If this found you tonight, maybe it's because some part of you already knew that intelligence was never the whole story. That the most important things, the ones that make a life feel real, were never going to show up on a test. And if this story stayed with you, you are exactly who this channel exists for.